Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jeffrey Epstein Show. I'm your host, Bobbycapucci, and this is a morning update. Ghislaine Maxwell and her team of lawyers are crying about the conditions that she is living under inside of the jail cell. Well, my advice, don't commit any crimes, especially those against children, and you won't have to worry about your living conditions. The second you are accused of something like this and then indicted of something like this, my concern for your comfort is non-existent, okay? You should have the basics. You should be treated as a human, of course. But besides that, I am sorry to tell you, jail is not supposed to be fun. It's not supposed to be enjoyable. It's not supposed to be something that you look forward to. Your stay in the prison system, courtesy of the United States citizens, is supposed to be punishment. And for Ghislaine Maxwell to think that on this planet or any other planet that she should be taken off of suicide watch or given some sort of special treatment while she's locked in jail for allegedly committing heinous crimes, it's just not going to be a situation that ends up falling in her favor. There are plenty of high-profile prisoners who have been in this jail and jails similar, and they were not given any special favors. So I do not expect to see Ghislaine Maxwell receive any sort of special treatment. And Christian Everdell and the other lawyers can go as crazy as they want and put forth as many motions as they want. But in the end, it's going to be the same result. Ghislaine Maxwell must be under heavy guard and she must remain away from the general population. She has to be safeguarded until the time of her trial. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. There's no maybes. There's no ifs. There's nothing like that at all. She must be safeguarded. She must appear in front of the judge, in front of a jury, and most importantly, in front of the survivors. And whatever it takes to get her to that point, I don't care if you have to put her in bubble wrap and in a room under 24-hour guard by a team of Navy SEALs. If that's what it takes, then that is what must occur, because we cannot have a repeat of what happened with Jeffrey Epstein under any circumstances. Our article today is from the Daily Mail. The author is Chris Pleasance. Headline: Ghislaine Maxwell is taken off suicide watch and wants to be moved out of solitary confinement at hellhole Brooklyn jail. Ghislaine Maxwell is complaining about conditions inside of the hellhole Brooklyn jail where she is being kept ahead of her sex crimes trial. Again, let me reiterate. Your comfort is not my concern. My concern as a citizen of the United States and as somebody who is interested in justice being served here is that you are safeguarded so that you can stand before the survivors and the rest of the world and face the punishment that you so deserve. So you can cry about the conditions in the jail. You can complain that, oh, my posh life is so ruined. But at the end of the day, remember this. The survivors have had to live with what you have done to them for all of these years, while you have been living your jet-setting, high-profile life. Now, the shoe is on the other foot. And the crybaby nonsense begins, huh? Well, sorry, Ghislaine. Enjoy your jail cell and your bologna sandwiches. The 58-year-old British socialite, co-conspirator, fellow child abuser, general all-around scumbag, was recently taken off suicide watch, but is being subjected to multiple searches each day and is under constant watch of the guards, her lawyers said. So, she is off suicide watch, right? But she is constantly monitored by guards, 24-hour surveillance, and In fact, there has been reports that people that are monitoring, that are busy working the monitors, watching her, are not even involved with the actual jail. They've been brought in from, I'm guessing, the prosecution to keep an eye on things, the Attorney General's office, et cetera, to kind of oversee the situation to make sure shit does not go south. Because if we have a repeat of what occurred with Epstein, it is going to be pitchforks and torches time, folks. I'm not one of these people that gets out into the street, right? I don't really get involved in all of that, especially in my old age of 40. But I will tell you this right now. As God is my witness, if something happens to Ghislaine Maxwell while she is incarcerated, I will go to Washington, D.C., and I will protest in front of the Department of Justice, even if I'm out there by myself, because it is just inconceivable that we could have a repeat of what occurred with Jeffrey Epstein. The searches and surveillance should be stopped, her lawyer said, while requesting that she be taken out of solitary confinement and placed in with other prisoners. Are her lawyers trying to get her killed? I don't know how familiar you folks are with the American prison system out there. Those of you who aren't in America, of course. But it's a pretty gnarly place. A place where chomos, child molesters, and abusers like Ghislaine Maxwell have a real rough go of it. And if you put her in general population, I can guarantee with a 100% certainty that some lady in that prison system will look to make a name off of beating the brakes off of Ghislaine Maxwell or perhaps even killing her. Those are the stakes when you put her in general population. What happens is she'll be what it's called being greenlit. The shot callers of all the gangs, no matter the color, etc., will all greenlight Ghislaine Maxwell. And that will be a free-for-all for all of the prisoners on the yard who are looking to make a name for themselves or who are looking to get into greater standing with whatever gang they run with. And that's just the reality of prison life. It's not fun. It's not a safe place to be. And if you're a child molester or an abuser, you are really going to have a rough time in general population. If anything, she should be put in the shoe with other molesters, etc., etc. That's the only sort of place for people like her. And after she gets convicted, she better get used to solitary confinement because she's going to be seeing a lot of that in prison because, again, it is a dangerous place for child molesters. They argue that she has... Her legal team says she is only being subjected to the onerous conditions because friend Jeffrey Epstein died while awaiting trial in what was ruled a suicide. Well, yeah. What, you're not going to take what you learned in the past and apply it in this case to make sure that the same result doesn't occur? That would be pretty stupid, huh? Her lawyers, I think that they're just really reaching at this point. They know that they really don't have a proper defense of Ghislaine Maxwell. They know that they're on shifting grounds, and they know that the court of public opinion is most assuredly not in their favor. So what they're trying to do here is make it out like she's being almost tortured. But we know that's not the case. She's being treated like anybody else would be in this situation. No more, no less. And to try and talk about her going into general population, it is just beyond the pale of ridiculous that her lawyers would even attempt to say that. Are they trying to get her killed? Trying to get her hurt? Who are her lawyers really working for? Because if I was her lawyer, I'd be fighting tooth and nail to keep her in solitary confinement. That way you safeguard her person and you make sure you can defend her at trial. And if you think that you can win the trial, of course, well, that's obviously what your goal is as the defense attorney. But to argue for her to be in the general population is just, I don't even understand that sort of strategy, folks. They argue that she has never been suicidal and was never diagnosed as exhibiting risk factors for suicide. but is still woken up every few hours during the night and forced to wear special clothing. Wah! I have to wear special clothing. They wake me up every night. Wah! Meanwhile, the survivors have been being woken up by horrible nightmares, PTSD, and you name it because of what you did to them. I think you can suffer through a few nights in a jail cell wearing paper clothes, Ghislaine. She has also been forced to undergo body scans, lawyer Chris Everdell wrote in a letter seen by the New York Post, and is observed even while calling her attorneys. Yes, she has to be under 24-hour surveillance. What don't you understand about that, Christian Everdell? I mean, I'm guessing you and your friends from Harvard wouldn't care one lick if something happened to her, would be my guess, right? Because that would get all of your buddies off the schneid too, Christian Everdell. But to think that we're supposed to feel sorry for this lady because she has to wear special clothes and she's woken up several times throughout the night? No, I don't feel bad. I don't care. Don't hurt children. Don't enable Jeffrey Epstein. And don't be involved with a criminal sex trafficking ring, and you won't have to worry about ending up in the clink. Miss Maxwell is being treated worse than other similar situated pretrial detainees, which significantly impacts her ability to prepare a defense, he said. Oh, stuff it. Judge Nathan already told you that was a garbage line that you were running. Nobody's buying it. She has ample ability to prepare her defense, and with all of the money you're making, Christian Everdell, you should be more on the ball. His letter asked that Maxwell be released to the general population and be granted the privileges given to other pretrial detainees. Again, I don't even understand how anyone could think it would be a good idea for Ghislaine Maxwell to hit the main line. The second she hits the main line, she will be assaulted. Do we forget what happened to Whitey Bulger recently? And that dude was just a snitch. Never mind being a chomo. They're setting her up for disaster, and they are setting the survivors up for another situation where they can't face their abuser. And that's the fate that awaits Ghislaine Maxwell on the main line, folks. I am pretty confident that if she hits the main line, the outcome will not be good. So there's no way that she can be taken out of solitary confinement. She has to stay in solitary confinement, and she has to be observed 24 hours a day until she testifies. And then, after she's sentenced after her trial, then put her on the main line if that's what you want. You're crowing about it so hard here. Let's put her on the main line in a federal prison and see how she fares there. Let's put your money where your mouth is. Call your bluff, basically. Because if you want her on the main line here, then she most certainly should be in general pop when she gets to actual federal prison, right? His letter asked that Maxwell be released to the general population and be granted the privileges given to the other pretrial detainees. Everdell also requested for her to be given more computer time in order to review the reams of documents relating to her case. Okay, I'm okay with that, as long as it's for the purposes of going through the files for her case. Again, even the scummiest, most disgusting amongst us is entitled to a defense. And I will always stand for that, because once we start, dicking people out of proper defense in a courtroom, then it's not long before all of us are suffering the same fate. So I think that she should be given the access to the computer. I think that that's something the court should agree to. But once again, full supervision. Further, his team are asking that she be given the names of 3 anonymous women who are accusing her of grooming and abusing them. Now you're going to have to wait for the trial for that, homie. I don't think that should be released. These 3 girls, they've been anonymous. They have not come forward with their names. So what makes you think that the name should be released to you and your scuzzbag client? Sorry, no. That request would be denied out of hand if I was in charge. Jeffrey Epstein was initially charged with sex trafficking in Florida in 2006, before being hit with a 53-page FBI indictment the following year. In 2008, he was offered a controversial plea deal that saw him sentenced to 18 months in prison for soliciting underage prostitutes. Let me fix that for you, okay? For soliciting underage girls and using his vast amount of power and wealth to force them into sexual acts. That's how it should read, okay? He was then rearrested in July 2019 and charged with sex trafficking when he was moved to a maximum security jail in Manhattan. On August 10th, he was found unconscious in his cell with injuries to his neck and later died in what was officially ruled a suicide. Allegedly. Epstein had been on suicide watch but was taken off just days before his death on the condition that he be placed with a cellmate and constantly monitored. But the day before his body was found, his cellmate was moved out and not replaced, and guards failed to carry out checks on him. And they want to move her into General Pop, right? Because that's a good idea. They couldn't even keep Jeffrey Epstein alive and contained in his cell. But they think that moving Ghislaine Maxwell to General Pop, where she's sharing a cell with God knows who, is going to turn out well. Yeah, it really sounds like a great strategy. Maxwell, who was accused of acting as Epstein's madam, co-conspirator, fellow child abuser, general all-around scumbag, by finding him young women to abuse and then training them to comply with his desires, was arrested on July 2nd at a mansion she owned in New Hampshire. The socialite, co-conspirator, child abuser, general all-around scumbag, who once mixed with celebrities, presidents, and royalty at high-class parties, was moved on July 6 to Brooklyn's Metropolitan Detention Center, once described by a judge as like a third-world country. What do you think what do you move her to the Waldorf Astoria? Move her to Jeffrey Epstein's old townhouse and let her serve out her sentence there? Sorry, if you don't want to end up in a shithole, don't be a shitty human being. Guards at the jail, which is different to the one where Jeffrey Epstein died last year, have been jailed for raping female prisoners, while the jail also lost power for an entire week during winter last year, leaving inmates locked in freezing dark cells. In total, Maxwell is facing 6 counts, 4 relating to child sex trafficking and 2 of perjury for lying under oath about the trafficking during a previous lawsuit. And as you all are aware, I am 100% convinced that we will see a superseded indictment and we will see RICO charges for all of them. I think that the linchpin for that is the next arrest. Once we see another arrest of a co-conspirator, I think that the cries to tie them together as a criminal organization are going to become loud, and they're going to be amplified by everybody who has been demanding RICO from the very beginning. So I think we're going to start seeing that, but the sign that that's coming is when the next co-conspirator is arrested, in my opinion. If convicted on all charges, she is facing up to 35 years behind bars, and that's still not enough in my opinion. She deserves life in prison, no questions, no passing go, no passing anything, right into prison for the rest of her life, of course after a trial, after she's convicted. Then I want the most lengthy prison sentence possible under the law should be administered to Ghislaine Maxwell. But for us to get to that point, the Department of Corrections and the prosecutor's office is going to have to be on their shit. They're going to have to make sure that she does not get injured, and they're going to have to make sure that she is ready to face the survivors and ultimately justice when the time comes. If you'd like to contact me, you can do that at bobbycapucci@protonmail.com. That's BOBBY_CAPUCCI@protonmail.com. You can also find me on Twitter at BOBBY_CAPUCCI. The links that go with this episode can be found in the description box. And to everybody who has donated to the GoFundMe, thank you very much. All right, everybody, we'll be back a little bit later.